Hi guys, I'm Jennifer. I'm with the Breamery and I'm here with Kimberly Lee. She's the CEO and the brains behind Prime Roots, which of all of the products that we're able to offer online, they're all like at the top of our bestseller list with bacon and salami rivaling each other like week by week as who's in first place. So I wanted to introduce you and thank you so much for being a supporter of us and collaborating on this great subscription box that we're launching for our June box, which is Sandwich Stack Month. And so people will be getting a variety of meats and cheeses that will be able to make everything from like a classic Italian, which will be your sandwich goodies, to grilled cheese, to a banh mi, to tea sandwiches and things like that. So I wanted to introduce you, Kim, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about, I don't know, how you guys came about and about your cool meats.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks for the partnership with Breamery. We've been with you all from basically day one since we launched our deli meats, and it's been so fun to engage with the community, um, and we're excited to be able to share our products that, for those who are not familiar, are made from whole food proteins, from a fungi-based protein. So we don't use any processed like soy, gluten, any processed plant proteins at all. We're actually made from whole food fungi that is really nutrient dense in terms of protein, fiber, and is actually one of the best protein sources for building muscle. It actually builds muscle better than whey protein, beef, a lot of like conventional meat products that a lot of meat eaters will say, oh, like this is healthy. So we're
Yeah.
actually undeniably better. Obviously, on the deli side, we don't have the nitrates, preservatives, none of that. So, we're able to really move the needle in terms of getting meat eaters to eat less deli meats or even no deli meats at all and fully cut out their meat consumption. So it passes the meat eater taste test.
It
Obviously, the
does, for
products are
sure.
fully vegan.
Yeah, we used to so our best-selling sandwich when we had our restaurant was called the Smiling Salami, and it was your guys' salami. It had pepper jack, it had spicy sweet pickles, red onions, and arugula, and then our
Mm.
maple mustard that we would make in house. And it was to live for. And we were we when we were in this public market, we moved around to three different, they called them pods, but three different of the locations. And at one point, for the longest period of time that we held one of these down, we were across from a wine bar. So frequently people would come over to us and get meat and cheese or get sandwiches and cheese, not really realizing it, we were vegan. And the staff at the wine bar would say like, oh no, that's a vegan salami sandwich. And people were just absolutely stunned. And it absolutely passes that meat lovers test for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to make it really easy to drive like positive impact. So I started the business in 2018. We spent a good 5 years in R&D just to develop this really next wave of plant-based products that are minimally processed, short ingredients. Everything is all natural. We don't use things like methyl cellulose, like super clean, like through and through. And I started out for really like a passion for making an impact through, products that, everyone gets to engage in and really be delighted by from, whether it's a cause you believe in or for your taste buds.
Yeah. Yeah. So was that your inspiration? Like, yeah, what moved you because like weren't you a student at UC Berkeley and maybe like their food
Yeah.
program, or if I remember, maybe even the meat program or something?
Yeah, so there was a alternative meat lab at UC Berkeley that was
Uh-huh.
really focused on, how do we move forwards, in a more sustainable, like holistically sustainable food system to produce protein for like just the growing need for and the growing demand for protein. As the population grows globally, it's really, really taxing to our environment. And I did like the back of the envelope math, and by 2050, with our current like rates of consumption of meat, as a society, we would need the equivalent of 8 planets worth of resources to be able to sustain that. We don't have 8 planets. We like have one. We're not doing a good job of maintaining. So, maybe I feel like we're preaching to the choir. Beef consumption takes about 30 calories of inputs to get just 1 calorie of beef. There's a much more ethical and sustainable way of producing that. So with like the fungi, we're close to 1 to 1 in terms of like energy input to energy output,
Wow.
in terms of creating sustainable, actually sustainable proteins.
Awesome. And so you guys got anything new coming on, or how did you arrive at like, the cuts that you did? Because I know you also have foie gras and things that are a little bit avant-garde.
Yeah, we have our core is our turkey, ham, salami, which everyone will get to try. We also have a bacon and pepperoni that are also available on the website. We have some new flavors that we're developing that we're excited to launch this year. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. I mean, we cover most of the deli, but there's definitely some like gaps of like
Yeah.
really big product types. So you can probably guess what those are. But really excited to roll those out. And yeah, make an impact. You know, like back to school is a really big time of year for us. And people are really learning about how bad deli meats are for their health. And so, you know, we're proudly nitrate and preservative. And, you know, check all the boxes. So, you know, a lot of folks hesitate because it has allergens or, you know, it's heavily processed. So we're really also not plant-based folks.
You're breaking up, or there's a little bit of choppiness going on, but I think we basically got the gist of what you're saying. Yeah, I was gonna offer that, you know, I don't remember how long ago it was, but deli meats, because of the nitrates, are a class 1 carcinogen, which is
Hmm.
insane to me that we give our kids these deli meats in at school lunches. It's like, why don't you just give them a cigarette for the end of their meal? They could enjoy that too, you know? So it's kind of it's a big deal, you know, and the
Yeah. And I
bacon is a big culprit of those nitrates usually, but not yours.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, I think people are really waking up to that. And we're really hoping that this really helps um, all eaters understand why, you know, they should be opting for, you know, better for you products that are plant-based. 'Cause it checks
Yeah,
all the boxes.
yeah, for sure. Um, so was this part of like a senior project, or how did you, you know, what's inspired you, like, or what happened inside of that class that had you discover this mycelium, or this model of what you've created? I mean, I think that you're at the front end of that, right? I know that there's other mushroom meats that have come out since, but when you came out, and for us, we first brought you on, I believe, in 22. Back then it was like that was really on the front end of this sort of thing that I'm seeing with mushroom coming in, and mycelium particularly coming in to play.
Yeah, and I think it's taken a long time to really develop the core technology, to make products that are, you know, actually less processed and more whole food oriented. The mycelium, like you're mentioning, I like to explain it like it's similar to the roots of mushrooms,
Mhm.
and they're really nutrient dense. And so the program I was part of was a research lab, and we actually found that the fungi was microscopically the same shape, size, and texture as animal muscle fibers. So like when you rip apart meat, it has a specific texture, like a mouthfeel. And the fungi actually perfectly replicates that. It's nothing that plants can do naturally. You're like when you use plant sources like soy, you have to extract the protein. So you're leaving a lot of like the whole food nutrients like behind in like the bean. It has fiber, it has a lot of things in it that are really, really good. You're stripping that out and then you're having to extrude it, which is also it's a call it ultra processing of the material.
Mhm.
And so, you know, we really wanted to turn, you know, that on its head because, you know, as people who like really care about all the of getting wider adoption that really gets us towards our goals, you know, we have to check all the boxes. And those are the concerns, you know, that we have individually, but also that, you know, the industry has, that consumers have. And so being able to really check those boxes is like really important. And it's it's a lot more difficult than using what's off the shelf with a lot of like plant-based.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen it's interesting because we were founded as cheese makers, and then you know we've had to pivot a number of times over the years since 2018 when we started. And right now, all of our best-selling products, like if you look at our top 25, most of them are meat analogs. And with the ones at the top being all mushroom based. And I mean, they're fabulous. They're high protein and minimally processed. So, you know, that's something I'm hopeful that more and more people are moving towards, you know, valuing that and wanting kind of more wholesome, honest food, you know?
Yeah, and I think like our philosophy is, you know, like for us, you know, there are other plant-based deli meats on the market. You know, I think you know, there's a lot of legacy brands out there. For us, like we really want to make the idea of a deli meat desirable for a meat eater. Because when we drive incremental impact, whether that be environmental, ethical, social, it's really where we get meat eaters who eat deli meats and meats all day, every day, to switch to more plant-based options and getting them to see why and desiring that option because it's better for them, it tastes better, it won't kill them, etc. So I think that's like why we're so focused on like what we do specifically.
Yeah.
Um, and we really think that like all products that like really push the envelope on better nutrition, better taste, less process is a win.
Yeah, one of the things that I was so excited because prior to Prime Roots, we were working with deli meats. I'm trying to remember it. I think that they may have been soy based, so they were gluten free, but they had soy in them. And what it did for us in our menu was our entire menu was allergen free if people would opt for the gluten free bread. And so, you enabled us to be able to do that. And we would get so much feedback. People would come and some people would like just about cry that they could have anything on this menu, except like maybe we had a special that was a breakfast burrito, right? And that was made, we had a tortilla. But outside of that, like everything, it was such an inclusive menu. So people were so grateful. I also, if I'm not mistaken, my understanding is that mushroom mycelium, it's very fast producing. So when one looks at what it takes to grow a crop of gluten versus soy versus mushroom, the resources involved with the mushroom production are so much more sustainable, in addition to the win-win-win of the nutrition and what it's doing for the environment and for the animals.
Yeah. And I think we did some of the math recently. Last year, we were able to save, I think, 500 million liters of water compared to a conventional process. And I think the equivalent number of animals that would have been used was like somewhere between 50 and 100,000. So it's like meaningful impact that we're able to drive because of the efficiency. And it took a lot of like upfront time and research and development to get there. But no, in the end, the outcome is a product that checks all the boxes, that's like more natural, that tastes great, right? And it's
Yeah.
converting meat eaters. And so, if you have friends or family who are meat eaters, like this product is for them. Obviously, it's a vegan product, but this is like how we're all going to make the impact together is when we get this out to, not just our like vegan friends and family, but like our meat eater friends and family, because there's a reason that, everybody should and would want to, not have carcinogens in their food
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
have a healthier natural source of protein.
Yeah, we there when we had the restaurant, there were a number of times that we would do charcuterie boards or charcuterie tables, and one of the things that the host would love to do is like put it out there, not let anybody know, but we would always warn them, people have allergies. And so it's really important that you let people know that the tags say that this is nut based or cashew based or soy based or whatever. And so it'd always be really exciting to be able to do totally allergen free tray and then have your salami on that because it doesn't have gluten, it doesn't have soy, and there's no allergens. It's crazy. And then I just was going to say also, so you were on that Netflix documentary that hit like January 1st, I think maybe 2 years ago, about the twin study. What was do you remember the name of the whole thing? I'm sure
Yeah,
you do.
yeah, you are what you eat.
Yes.
We're in episode 4. So if you want to check it out, it's still on Netflix and
Yeah.
it's a really good like balance like
Well, so for
study.
us, we got in and all of a sudden these orders started like it was crazy. It was like there was a movie I saw once. It was like on the beginning of social media and like there was like a ding every time they had like gotten a new subscriber or something. So it's going ding, ding, ding. And that was sort of how we were feeling like, what is going on with Prime Roots? And so Meredith, our logistics coordinator, went on and she found out that this documentary just dropped. And, we get in here at about like 9 a.m. at Pacific time, but on the East Coast, it had already been airing. So people, are placing these orders. And I remember I had to drive, my son and I that weekend drove up to Berkeley to go load up our truck with more product because it was out of control. And I remember at the end of that 2 month period, because it flowed over into February too, I did what you just said, which is an analysis of how many pounds of meat we had slung. Basically, Megan did all the slicing or packaging it up, shipping it, and then doing the calculation to how much water. And I don't remember it off the top of my head right now, but it was like tons and tons of water. And in that moment, I felt so much pride as a small little startup company trying to like get our, bearings and realizing the exponential power of the difference we were making in such a big way. It was like, it was so heartwarming, and it really just made our heart soar like an eagle at the Bremery, because we got to be part of knowing we're making a real difference, differently than what we were experiencing at the restaurant. So
And I remember that weekend. I remember I met you and we were
yeah,
like loading the car. It was yeah, no, it was really good to help put the brand on the map. And I think if there's like one thing I can leave with like folks is really like please share all these amazing products that you come across that are plant-based to your not plant-based friends, because that really is where we all make an impact, right? Where we're
yeah.
driving change. The reality is like 98, 99% of people still eat animal-based products. And so, it's really being able to delight and surprise and get folks to understand that there's so much more out there, and the why behind it is really important.
It is just phenomenal what you guys have done. And there's so much. It's interesting because with our clientele, there are a lot of junk food vegans. They're not necessarily coming to it from a health perspective, but I'm so grateful that we have a plethora of product that does check the boxes for the people that are really considerate about what they're putting into their body and wanting to be more cautious about putting things that aren't more holistically manufactured or grown. So I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear about what your new products are. And in this particular box that's going out, we're also doing pastrami, but it's a wheat gluten-based pastrami, which, as fabulous as that is, unless you're washing your own seitan, there's always this flavor that exists in all deli slices that are made with gluten that is just undeniably that taste. So this is just so exciting because it's so different, and texturally it just behaves exactly like what one would expect, like that salami, the spring on it. It throws me back to my childhood. I grew up in a Sicilian family where we had salami sandwiches on the regular. So very, very well done. So anything else you wanted to maybe talk about or share with regards to Prime Roots? And
Oh, sorry, my dog is like
I
my
saw him
dog is
walking in the
climbing.
background. Yeah,
No, I think no, thank you for the partnership, and I'm so excited for everyone to try this sampler box.
yeah, me
And
too.
curious to hear to see what everyone creates. So, please tag both of us, Ramery and at Prime Roots on Instagram, and we'd love to share the love and see what everyone's making.
For sure. Absolutely. We encourage them. We do a digital guide, and then we do a printed guide that actually goes in the subscription box. And so people are encouraged to post and share for sure for all of us. So yeah, it's a small family. So I think what I was going to say about Samantha is that, it's so interesting to think about how many things how much meat and dairy is subsidized. And so those products make it into food stuff that doesn't need to have animal-based product. For example, I don't know if you know Vegan Hacks Pod, but he just did a thing on a wonton wrapped avocado and sun-dried tomato thing that's sort of inspired, well, it's totally inspired by Cheesecake Factory, but they use an egg wash. And he's like, this is insanity. You just need water. Why would you do egg wash? And
Oh,
so,
me too.
so Cheesecake
Exactly.
Factory piped in the comments about like, oh, that looks like a familiar recipe. And so he took the liberty of like, yeah, it's like inspired by you, but you end up using egg wash, and you exclude certain people from being able to eat that. If you just use water, you'd save money, you'd save animals, and you'd be able to be an inclusive option on your menu. So it really does,
Yeah.
it's bewildering sometimes when some of that, I think it's subsidy, right? It's that people are just so used to using these products because they've been kind of peddled into positions that they didn't really need to be
Yep,
necessarily.
exactly.
Yeah, so um so
Exactly. It's just tradition. It's just how things are done, which is not how things need to be done.
that's right. That's right. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I know you're super busy, and I'm so grateful that you took time out to be able to come on and share with our subscribers, more about Prime Roots, and we're all looking forward to what's next for sure.
Well, thank you for the partnership, Jennifer, and
Yeah,
the whole Bravery team and community. We've loved being able to work with you all.
likewise. All right, you have a great
Awesome.
weekend. Good to talk with you.